The Cave of Silence. The wind howled across the empty desert, carrying with it the taste of dust and forgotten time. The land was dead, dry, and endless, but at the edge of a jagged cliff stood a cave, dark and silent. For centuries it had been untouched, hidden by sandstorms and fear. No one dared enter it, for stories claimed that something inside was alive, waiting. Ethan, a young human explorer, tightened the strap of his pack and stared at the cave's black mouth. He had come from far across the stars, searching for relics of ancient wars. His boots crunched on the gravel as he walked forward, each step echoing in the silence. The locals had warned him not to come. They said the cave was cursed. They said it swallowed men whole. But Ethan did not believe in curses, he believed in truth. As he entered, the air grew colder. The sunlight behind him faded, swallowed by the heavy darkness. Ethan switched on a small light. Its beam shook slightly in his trembling hands. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly as if awakened by his presence. They looked like claws scratched in a stone, but when he touched them, they pulsed with energy. He moved deeper, the cave twisting like a throat. The sound of dripping water echoed through the hollow chamber. Dust floated in the air, disturbed for the first time in centuries. Ethan felt his heart beat faster. He should have turned back, but something pulled him forward, a strange call he could not resist. Finally, he reached the center. There it was, resting in the heart of the cave. An enormous stone coffin. It was carved from black rock, its surface covered in the same glowing marks. Chains of metal and light wrapped tightly around it, as if to keep something from breaking free. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The coffin seemed to breathe, faint and slow, like the heart of a sleeping beast. He stepped closer, his hand brushing against one of the glowing chains. The moment he touched it, the cave shuddered. Rocks trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The symbols on the coffin flared to life, burning with crimson light. Ethan staggered back, his light shaking. The coffin was alive. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with every second. It was not just sound. It was a heartbeat, steady and ancient. Ethan froze, his chest tightened as he realized the legends were true. Something was inside. He tried to retreat, but the cave seemed to close around him. The ground cracked beneath his feet, forcing him closer. The chains rattled, one by one snapping like brittle glass. The coffin began to open, its heavy lid grinding as if the earth itself resisted. From within came a burst of cold air, sharp as knives. Ethan shielded his face. His light flickered and went out, leaving him in the glow of the crimson symbols. And then he saw her. A woman lay inside, tall and still. Her hair was dark as night. Her armor of silver and black shimmered with strange runes. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her eyes were closed. She looked like a statue carved from beauty and war. But her chest rose and fell, slow, steady, alive. Ethan's heart pounded. He should have run, but his feet refused to move. The air around her was heavy, pressing against his lungs. She was not just a woman. She was something greater, older, dangerous. Her eyes opened, glowing with a fiery red light. They locked onto him instantly, and Ethan felt as if he had been struck. Her gaze pierced him, reading him, judging him. For the first time, Ethan felt fear not of death, but of awakening something that should never have risen. The woman's lips parted, and a whisper escaped, soft but carrying across the cavern like thunder. After 5 centuries, a human wakes me. The chains that remained shattered in a flash of light. Her body rose slowly from the coffin, her movements graceful yet filled with power. Dust and stone fell away as she stood tall, her armor catching the red glow of the cave. She was awake. Ethan's light flickered back to life for just a second, and he saw clearly the face of the warrior woman, beautiful, deadly, eternal. She took one step forward, and the cave floor cracked under her heel. The silence was broken. The Cave of Silence was no longer a tomb. It was the birthplace of something the universe had long forgotten. And Ethan realized too late. He had not discovered history. He had unleashed it. The awakening. The cave shook with every heartbeat that came from the ancient coffin. The air turned heavy, pressing down on Ethan's chest. He gasped, his breath short, his hands trembling. The warrior woman stood before him now, her armor shining with strange light, her eyes burning like fire. She stared at him in silence. Her gaze was not human. It was sharp, like the edge of a blade. Ethan felt small, weak, almost crushed under the weight of her presence. She tilted her head slowly, as if trying to understand who had dared to wake her. Her voice broke the silence. It was soft but powerful, echoing through the chamber. "You carry the scent of blood," she whispered. "Tell me, who commands the stars now?" Ethan swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. He tried to answer, but his voice shook. I'm just an explorer," he said. "I didn't mean to." Before he could finish, she moved, faster than his eyes could follow. In a flash, she was standing inches from him, her blade drawn, its edge rested gently against his neck. The metal was cold, colder than ice. "You dare disturb my rest," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Do you know who I am?" Ethan's heart pounded. He raised his hand slowly, showing he had no weapon. "I don't," he admitted, "but the cave, it called to me." She studied him for a moment, then lowered the blade, but not all the way. Her expression changed. Confusion flickered in her glowing eyes. She looked at his hand, the one that had touched the glowing chain. A small cut was on his skin, a drop of blood still fresh. Her eyes widened. The red glow in the cave pulsed brighter. She stepped back as if struck, whispering something under her breath. "No, it cannot be. Bloodbound." The ground trembled as the last chain on the coffin shattered. A wave of energy spread through the chamber, shaking dust from the ceiling. Ethan stumbled, trying to stay on his feet. She raised her hand, placing it over her chest. Her armor shifted, glowing faintly. She looked at Ethan again, but this time there was no anger. Instead, there was something else, shock, maybe even fear. "My oath," she whispered. 500 years ago, it was sealed in blood, a curse, a bond unbroken until now. Ethan frowned. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his voice cracking with nerves. She did not answer right away. Her hand tightened around the hilt of her blade. Her eyes glowed brighter. She looked torn between killing him and kneeling before him. Finally, she spoke, her words like fire in the dark. "My name is Kilira, Queen of Blades, General of the Crimson Legions. The galaxy trembled when I walked. I burned worlds. I crushed empires. And now, your blood binds me, human." Ethan felt his knees weaken. The name alone carried weight. He had read fragments of history, stories of an ancient warlord, a woman who commanded armies greater than nations. Legends said she had been betrayed and sealed, too dangerous to kill, too deadly to let live. And now she was here, alive, standing before him. Kilira stepped closer, lowering her blade. She looked down at him, her eyes unreadable. "You have awakened me," she said, her voice softer now. "That means my blade is yours. Until your death, I am bound to serve." Ethan shook his head. No, this is a mistake," he stammered. "I don't want a servant. I don't want a warrior. I just came here for—" She cut him off with a laugh. It was not cruel, but heavy with sadness. "You do not choose," she said. "The oath chooses. Your blood has spoken. Human, you may not want war, but war will come for you. And when it does, I will fight because I must." The cave walls trembled again. A distant rumble echoed from the entrance. Ethan turned sharply, his stomach tightening. From the shadows at the edge of the cavern, shapes began to appear, glowing eyes in the dark. Kilira's expression hardened. She lifted her blade with ease, the air around her vibrating with power. "They have come," she said, her voice calm, almost eager. "The world has felt my awakening. They fear me. They will try to kill you to keep me sealed, but they will fail." Ethan stared at the shadows moving closer, dozens of them, crawling along the stone like hunters. His body froze in fear, but Kilira only smiled. It was the smile of someone who had lived for battle, someone who had slept too long and now hungered for war. She glanced at Ethan one last time, her fiery eyes softening for a heartbeat. "Do not fear," Human, I may be your curse, but I am also your shield. And then, with a roar that shook the cavern, Kalira leapt forward, her blade slicing through the dark. The silence of the cave was gone, replaced by the sound of war. The deadliest warrior. The cave echoed with the clash of steel and the screams of dying creatures. Kalira moved like a storm, her blade slicing through shadows that had taken shape as monstrous raiders. Their bodies were twisted, armored in bone and metal, but they were nothing against her. Each swing of her weapon split stone and shattered flesh. Ethan stood frozen near the coffin. His light flickered weakly, casting broken beams across the walls. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. Instead, he watched her. This woman who had slept for centuries, moving with a speed and power no human could understand. She was not fighting. She was dancing, every strike perfect, every movement filled with deadly grace. One of the raiders leapt at Ethan from the side, teeth bared. Before he could scream, Kalira was there. Her blade flashed, and the creature fell in two pieces at his feet. The air smelled of burning metal and blood. Ethan gasped, looking up at her. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her lips curled into a small, dark smile. "Stay behind me, human," she said. "Your blood commands me, but my blade protects you." More raiders poured into the chamber. Their leader stepped forward, towering, with horns of steel and a voice like thunder. "The Queen of Death lives," he roared. "Seal her again before the galaxy burns." Kalira's gaze locked on him. For the first time since awakening, her expression shifted to anger. Not at the raiders, but at memory. She took one slow step forward, her voice cold as ice. "You dare call me Queen of Death," she said. "I was Kalira, General of the Crimson Legions. I led 1,000 fleets. I crushed the eternal thrones. And for 5 centuries I was bound here, betrayed by cowards. But now, I rise again." The raiders hesitated, their leader growling. "You are a relic, warrior. The stars no longer fear your name." Her laughter filled the cave, cruel and beautiful. "Then let me remind them," she whispered, and with that, she launched forward, her blade tearing through the leader's armor as if it were paper. He fell with a scream that shook the walls, and the rest fled into the shadows. When silence returned, Ethan's heart was pounding. He stared at the destruction around him. Dozens of bodies, broken weapons, shattered stone. The cave smelled of blood and smoke. Kalira stood tall among the ruins, her blade dripping red light. Her chest rose and fell calmly, as if the battle had been nothing. Slowly, she turned to Ethan, her fiery eyes softened, but only slightly. "You see now," she said, "I am not human. I am not like you. I was made for war, and war follows me." Ethan swallowed, trying to find words. His voice trembled. "You killed them all. You didn't even hesitate." She tilted her head, confused. "Why would I?" she asked. "They came to end your life. I ended theirs. That is balance." He shook his head. "You don't understand. In my time, in my world, killing is not the answer to everything." Her eyes narrowed. A flicker of sadness crossed her face. "Your world must be weak then," she whispered. 500 years ago, mercy was the language of the dead. Strength was survival. And I was the strongest of all. She lifted her blade and placed it across her chest in salute. Her voice grew sharp again. "But my strength is no longer mine alone. Your blood awakened me. Human, my oath binds me. I live for your command. Speak, and I will burn worlds for you." Ethan stepped back, shaking his head. "No, I don't want that. I don't want to burn anything," he said. "I just want to survive, to get out of here alive." Kalira studied him, silent for a long moment. Finally, she lowered her weapon. "Then survive we shall," she said quietly. "But know this, human, the galaxy will not let me return without resistance. Already the stars will whisper. Already my enemies will rise. You are tied to me now, and their blades will come for you as well." Ethan's stomach tightened. He realized the truth. By awakening her, he had not just found history. He had tied himself to a storm that would never stop. Kalira walked past him, her armor glowing in the dim light. She touched the wall of the cave, and the symbols lit up brighter. "This place was my prison," she said, But now it will become my tomb no longer. The world outside waits, and I will see if it still remembers my name." Ethan followed slowly, fear mixing with awe. Every step she took cracked the stone floor. Her presence was heavy, impossible to ignore. She was not a woman. She was a weapon, alive and bound to him. As they neared the cave's entrance, the desert wind howled again, carrying sand and whispers. The sky burned with strange colors, as if the stars themselves had felt her awakening. Kalira turned to Ethan once more, her fiery eyes locking on his. "Do not fear, human," she said. "You may think me a curse, but in time you will see. I am also your shield. I am your blade. And together, we will carve a path the galaxy cannot forget." Her words echoed into the night. The warrior who had slept for 500 years was awake, and the universe would soon remember her name. First battle together. The desert outside the cave stretched endless and cold. Stars burned in the sky like silent witnesses. Ethan followed Kalira into the night, his steps uncertain. Every shadow made him flinch. Every gust of wind felt alive. But Kalira walked without fear, her armor glowing faintly, her blade always ready. They had barely left the cave when the ground trembled again. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. He turned, and from the dunes, shapes began to rise. Dozens of figures appeared. Alien raiders wrapped in bone armor, their faces hidden behind masks of skulls. Their eyes glowed sickly yellow. Their weapons crackled with strange energy. Kalira stopped, her posture shifting into something dangerous. She lifted her blade slowly, the air around her vibrating. She did not speak, but her presence alone was enough to make Ethan feel as if the ground itself was preparing for war. The leader of the raiders stepped forward, his voice rasped like stone. "The Queen of Death cannot be allowed to walk again," he growled. "The galaxy has bled enough. Tonight, her curse ends. Tonight, the human who freed her dies." Ethan's throat tightened. He stumbled back, fear flooding him. The raiders moved to surround them, their weapons raised. Sparks of energy hissed in the air. Kalira did not flinch. She glanced at Ethan, her eyes burning red. "You fear death, human," she said. "But I tell you this, tonight, death fears me." And then she moved. Her blade slashed through the first line of raiders like lightning. Sparks flew, metal shattered, bone mass cracked in two. Her movements were impossibly fast. Every strike was clean, precise, unstoppable. Ethan ducked as one raider lunged at him. He tried to scramble away, but the creature grabbed his arm. Before Ethan could scream, Kalira's blade passed so close to his face he felt its heat. The raider fell in pieces at his feet. Kalira stood above him, her voice sharp. "Stay behind me. I will not let them touch you." But more kept coming. Dozens turned into hundreds. The desert echoed with their war cries. The air burned with their weapons. For the first time, Ethan realized this was not just a fight, this was a war, and he was standing in the middle of it. Kalira spun in a deadly circle, her blade cutting through everything in her path. But the raiders adapted. They leapt at her from all sides, their weapons glowing, binding ropes of energy snapping out. One of them wrapped around her arm, another around her leg. She staggered for a moment, snarling. Ethan's heart raced. He saw her falter, and without thinking, he grabbed a broken spear from the ground. With trembling hands, he swung it at the raider holding her. The weapon cracked, but the distraction gave Kalira the opening she needed. With a roar, she tore free, her blade slicing the energy ropes apart. She looked at Ethan, her eyes widening with something close to surprise. "You fought," she said, almost softly. Then her tone hardened. "Good. Remember this. Your courage feeds my blade." The leader of the raiders bellowed, charging forward with a massive hammer. The ground cracked beneath each step. He raised the weapon high, aiming for Ethan. Kalira moved faster than sight. Her blade met the hammer in a clash that sent shockwaves through the desert. Sparks exploded. Sand flew into the air. Ethan fell to the ground, covering his head. The two titans fought, their weapons striking again and again. Every hit shook the earth. Finally, Kalira found her opening. With a cry that echoed across the dunes, she drove her blade through the raider leader's chest. The glow in his eyes vanished. He collapsed into the sand. The other raiders froze, fear filling their ranks. For the first time, Ethan saw them not as hunters, but as prey. They whispered among themselves, one word passing through their lips like fire, bloodbound. And then they broke, scattering into the night, their glowing eyes vanishing into the dunes. Silence fell. The desert wind carried away the smell of battle. Ethan slowly stood, his hands shaking. He looked at Kilira. Her armor was cracked, her blade glowing faintly, but she stood unbroken. Her fiery eyes met his. She knelt before him, pressing her blade into the sand. "Your blood awakened me," she said, her voice steady, "and your courage kept me free. From this moment, human, I bow to you, not as a queen, but as your warrior. I will fight at your command until the stars themselves burn out." Ethan's breath caught in his chest. He did not want power. He did not want war. But looking at her, at the battlefield around them, he realized something he could not deny. He was no longer just an explorer. He was bound to the deadliest warrior the galaxy had ever known. And together, they had just fought their first battle. Clash of wills. The desert was quiet after the battle. The bodies of the fallen raiders lay scattered across the sand, their glowing eyes dimmed forever. The night sky stretched above, endless and cold. Ethan stood among the ruins, his chest still heavy with fear. His hand shook as he looked at Kilira, who cleaned her blade with steady calm. She was not human, not in her heart. Her movements were too precise, too perfect. Every breath she took felt measured. Ethan realized she was born for war, and that truth frightened him. Kilira turned toward him, her fiery eyes glowing in the darkness. "You did well," she said, her voice even. "For a human with no training, you showed courage." Ethan shook his head, his voice rough. "I wasn't brave," he said. "I was just trying not to die." Her lips curled faintly, almost a smile. "That is what courage is," she replied. "To fight even when death surrounds you." Ethan looked at the battlefield, then at her. "But this," he said quietly, "this isn't what I wanted. I came here searching for history, not war, not blood." Kilira's expression hardened. She raised her blade and drove it into the sand, standing tall. "You speak of peace as if it is more than a dream," she said. "But peace dies the moment weakness shows. The galaxy remembers only strength, and I am strength itself." Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. "No," he said, his voice firmer. "Strength without mercy destroys everything. If all you bring is death, then you're not a shield. You're just another curse." For the first time, Kilira's eyes narrowed with something like anger. Her hand gripped the hilt of her blade. "Be careful, human," she said, her tone low. "Your words cut deeper than you know." The silence between them grew heavy. The desert wind carried their voices away. Ethan felt the weight of her presence, the danger in her stillness. He knew she could end his life in a breath. Yet she didn't move. She only stared, as if torn between two instincts, kill or obey. Finally, she turned away, pulling her blade free from the sand. "You do not understand my world," she said. 5 centuries ago, I led armies that carved empires from the bones of tyrants. I crushed fleets so great they darkened stars. My people trusted me to keep them safe, and for that, I chose war, always war. Ethan's chest tightened. "And where are your people now?" he asked, his words sharp. "If all your war brought safety, why were you sealed in that coffin? Why did they betray you?" Kilira froze. Her blade trembled slightly in her hand. Her fiery eyes dimmed for just a moment. She whispered, almost too softly to hear, "Because they feared me." Her words hung in the air like a wound. Ethan watched her shoulders tighten. For all her power, for all her pride, there was pain hidden in her voice. She had been queen, general, destroyer, and still abandoned. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentler. "Then don't repeat their mistake," he said. "Don't let fear be the only thing you give to the galaxy." Kilira's head lifted, her fiery eyes burning again. But this time the flame was less certain. She studied him for a long moment, as if weighing his soul. Finally, she sighed, a sound that echoed like wind through ruins. "You speak as if you know better than a queen of blades," she said. "But perhaps your weakness is another kind of strength." Before Ethan could answer, a distant horn echoed across the desert. Shadows flickered on the horizon. Dozens of lights glowed like fire in the distance. Marching closer, Kalira's expression hardened instantly. "They come again," she said, lifting her blade. "My enemies are endless. They will not rest until both of us are buried in the sand." Ethan's stomach knotted. His instinct screamed to run, but he forced himself to stand. "Then we don't meet them with war," he said quickly. "Not if we can help it. We hide. We survive." Kalira's jaw tightened. Her blade hummed with power. "To run is to show weakness," she said. "To fight is to show strength." Ethan met her gaze, his voice firm. "To live is to win." For a moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, Kalira lowered her weapon. Her fiery eyes locked onto his, full of conflict. "Very well, human," she said. "For this night, I will obey. But know this. The day will come when running will not save you. And when that day comes, you will beg for my war." Together, they moved into the darkness, the desert swallowing their footsteps behind them. The horns grew louder, the lights brighter. Their bond had begun to fracture, one seeking peace, the other forged for battle. And the galaxy, sensing her return, was already closing in. The betrayal. The desert stretched on for days. Endless dunes rolled like waves, and the nights grew colder. Ethan followed Kalira through the wasteland, his body aching, his mind burned with questions, but his lips stayed silent. The bond between them was uneasy, fragile. Every word was a spark, threatening to ignite a fire. Kalira walked ahead, her blade always near. Her eyes searched the horizon as if every grain of sand hid an enemy. She moved with discipline, but Ethan noticed something in her silence. Sometimes her gaze lingered on the stars. Sometimes her steps slowed, as if memories pulled her back to another time. She was strong, but also burdened. One night, as they camped near the ruins of an old outpost, a light flickered in the distance. Ethan's heart leapt. "Someone's out there," he whispered. Kalira's eyes narrowed, her hand resting on her blade. "Or something," she said. The light grew closer until a figure appeared, a man in ragged clothes, his face covered in dust. He stumbled toward them, coughing, raising his hands. "Please," he begged. "I mean no harm. I saw your fire. I have food. I have water. Don't kill me." Ethan rushed forward, his heart filled with relief. "We're not enemies," he said quickly, helping the stranger to sit. The man's eyes flickered with gratitude. He opened a small pack, showing dried fruit and a flask of water. Ethan's stomach twisted with hunger. Kalira remained still, her fiery gaze locked on the man. "Why are you here?" she asked coldly. "No one wanders these lands without purpose." The man lowered his head. "I am a traitor," he said, "or I was before the raiders burned my caravan. I escaped. I've been running for days. Please, I can guide you to safety. They're the hidden city beyond the desert, a place where raiders cannot reach." Ethan turned to Kalira, hope flickering in his eyes. "A city," he said, "that could mean shelter or food, maybe even answers." But Kalira's eyes narrowed. Her blade hummed faintly. "Safety does not exist," she said. "Every city hides knives behind its walls." Still, Ethan pressed. "We can't keep running forever," he said. "If there's even a chance he's telling the truth, we should take it." Kalira looked at him long and hard. Her jaw tightened. Finally, she sheathed her blade. "Very well," she said. "But if this man lies, his blood is yours, human." The next day, they followed the traitor across the dunes. For hours, nothing but sand and silence surrounded them. At last, jagged cliffs rose ahead, and within them lay a hidden valley. Lights glowed faintly, structures carved into the stone. Ethan's heart swelled with hope. "It's real," he breathed. The traitor smiled. "Yes," he said, "this place is safe. You'll see." But Kalira's steps slowed. Her fiery eyes swept the valley. Her hand tightened on her blade. No, she whispered, this is wrong. Before Ethan could ask, the air around them shifted. Dozens of shadows emerged from the cliffs, armed and ready. Weapons gleamed in the dim light. They had been waiting. The traitor stepped back, his smile twisting into something cruel. Forgive me, he said, but the price for your heads is worth more than loyalty. The galaxy fears a return. They will pay well to see you both sealed again. Ethan's stomach dropped, his breath caught in his throat. He had trusted, and now they were trapped. Kilira's blade flashed in her hand. Her eyes blazed. I warned you, she hissed at Ethan. Mercy is weakness. The raiders moved in, but they carried strange weapons, chains of glowing energy. They lashed out, wrapping around Kilira's arms and legs. She roared, struggling. Her blade struck sparks, but the chains pulled tighter, forcing her to her knees. Kilira! Ethan shouted, rushing forward, but another chain snapped around his chest, dragging him to the ground. His body burned as the energy cut into him. The traitor walked closer, his face calm. The galaxy has not forgotten you. Queen of Death, he said. It has only learned to bind you. You will return to silence, and this time, no human blood will wake you. Kilira snarled, straining against the chains, her fiery eyes locked on Ethan. For the first time, he saw something new in them. Not anger, not pride, but desperation. Do not give up, she growled. This is not my end. Nor yours. Fight, human fight. The chains pulled tighter, glowing brighter. Ethan felt his strength slipping, his vision blurred. His heart raced with terror. He realized then that Kilira was right about one thing. The galaxy would never stop hunting her, and now, because of him, they had her. As darkness closed in, Ethan whispered through clenched teeth, I will not let them take you. Kilira's eyes widened, her breath caught, and then the chains glowed so brightly they blinded the valley. The trap was sprung, the warrior was bound, and Ethan was left to face the greatest choice of his life. Save her and unleash chaos, or let her be sealed forever, bound by blood. Chains of burning energy wrapped around Kilira's body, forcing her to the ground. Her blade clattered into the sand. The glow in her eyes dimmed, her breath sharp and heavy. The raiders cheered, their voices echoing through the valley. Ethan lay pinned by his own chain, his chest burning with pain, but his mind sharper than ever. The traitor stood above them, his smile cruel. It is over, he said. The Queen of Death will return to her coffin, and the human who freed her will rot beside her. The galaxy will sleep in peace once more. Kilira lifted her head, her fiery eyes meeting Ethan's. No, she whispered, her voice raw. Do not let them seal me. Do not let my oath end here. Ethan's heart pounded. He saw her trembling against the chains. He saw the cracks in her armor. He saw not just the warrior, but the woman beneath. She was bound to him, not by choice, but by blood. And now, her fate rested in his hands. The raiders tightened the chains. Kilira cried out, the sound fierce yet broken. Ethan clenched his teeth, rage burning inside him. He looked at his cut hand, the same hand that had awakened her. Blood dripped onto the sand, glowing faintly under the strange energy. Something stirred in the chains. They pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Ethan realized the truth. The same blood that had awakened her could free her again, if he dared. He dragged himself closer, every step agony. The traitor saw him moving and laughed. Pathetic, he said, you think your fragile body can save her. She is a monster, human. Let her be buried. Ethan ignored him. His hand touched the chains binding Kilira. The glow flared, bright and wild. Kilira's eyes widened. Yes, she gasped. Do it, human. Release me. Unleash me. The choice tore through him. If he freed her, she would bring war. Chaos would follow. If he did nothing, she would be sealed, and maybe the galaxy would be safe. But as he looked at her, struggling yet unbroken, he knew he could not let her vanish into silence again. He pressed his bleeding hand harder against the chains. The light exploded. The energy burned his skin, but he did not pull back. With a roar, the chains shattered, one by one breaking like glass. Kilira rose, her blade snapping back in her hand as if called by fate. Her fiery eyes blazed brighter than ever. Her voice thundered through the valley. "You dare bind me again," she roared. "Then you shall see why the stars once trembled at my name." She moved like a storm. Her blade cut through raiders with impossible speed. Their weapons shattered. Their cries filled the night. The traitor tried to run, but Kilira's hand shot out, dragging him to the ground. Her blade hovered over his throat. "You spoke of peace," she said coldly, "but you know nothing of it. Only chains, only fear. For that you die." Ethan staggered forward, his voice hoarse. "No, stop," he shouted. Kilira's eyes flicked toward him. For a long moment, her blade stayed still. The traitor trembled beneath her. Ethan's voice broke. "If you kill him, you prove them right, that you are nothing but a curse. Prove them wrong. Kilira, show them you are more than death." The valley grew silent. Kilira's blade trembled. Her fiery eyes locked on Ethan's. She breathed hard, the weight of centuries in her chest. Finally, with a sharp cry, she lowered her weapon. The traitor collapsed in shock, scrambling away into the dark. Kilira stood tall, her blade dripping with the blood of her enemies. Her eyes still burned, but softer now. She turned to Ethan, kneeling before him, her voice low but steady. "Your blood awakened me. You will stay my hand. Until death, I am bound to you, human, not by chains, not by fear, but by choice." Ethan stared at her, his chest tight. He had not wanted this bond, not wanted war, but now, looking at her, he understood their fates were one, bound by blood, bound by trust. Above them, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as if watching, as if whispering, "The Queen of Blades has returned, and with her a new story begins." But in the shadows beyond the valley, unseen eyes glowed, a voice carried on the wind, soft and cold. "The blood-bound queen walks again. The galaxy will burn, and only darkness will rise." Kilira lifted her head to the stars, her fiery eyes unshaken. "Let them come," she whispered, "for I am Kilira, and I no longer fight alone." And by her side, Ethan stood, no longer just an explorer, but the keeper of the deadliest warrior the universe had ever known.